How we doing, everyone? Did we enjoy that absolute epic meltdown from Iowa State last night? Welcome into the college basketball betting show here at FTN. I'm Chief Content Officer Mike Randle. Follow me on Twitter at Randle Rant. And we bring you 3 times a week, folks, picks, discussions, questions, props, whatever you want. And we even come here to lament a big loss. And listen, my attitude was this. I put this out on Twitter last night. Sometimes we get the big cover where we don't expect it. And sometimes it goes the other way. I'll take up 23 points in the second half with a 2.5 point underdog any day of the week, but an incredible rally by Texas Tech, just unreal. So a couple unfortunate breaks last night, but still doing very, very well across the board here. Really excited to get talking to you today about the college basketball slate. Reminder, still up 43 units here on side. Just been a great, great year for us so far. Free play should have been 31-10-1. Instead, it's 30-11-1 here, 71% over the last 42 days, and took a step back. One bad loss there on the props on Saturday, still 14-5, 74%. So it happens. We recover. We stay with our process. We had a great cover with Syracuse against North Carolina, 4.5, because North Carolina's missing free throws. I guess we gave it back last night. A lot of fun, folks, but we move on. We just continue the grind. That's all we can do here at FTN. Let's get into the plays today and talk about them. Now, remember, for those that are new to the show, I don't bet on all of these plays. I talk about as many games as possible. Sometimes I have a strong play. Sometimes I have a lean. Sometimes it's contingent on players being out, and we've seen a lot. I've told you this over and over again. Players being ruled out, people showing up in walking boots for no reason. So you always have to be aware right before the game tips to make sure you check it, see what's going on there on social media. And of course, join us, like, subscribe, hit that like button, give us a comment, subscribe. You can get into our Discord. The Discord is hopping there. We've had live line opportunity, second half wagering. Got to get in the Discord here at FTN so you can make those changes right away. First game up here, South Carolina versus Mississippi State. I don't see the reason why I would lay this many points on the road with Mississippi State. Mississippi State, really gutty performance the other night at Alabama. Alabama just shot very poorly from three-point range, which they usually don't do. And don't tell me it's Mississippi State's three-point defense, because they're one of the worst three-point teams at defending three-pointers in the SEC. I can't lay it. I got it with 10.5. It's down to 9.5. South Carolina's been a very odd team. 10-11 this year against the spread, 5-5 against the spread at home. They've covered 6 of 7, but then they failed to cover 5 of 6 before a close loss there against Mike White. So they were scalding hot. They covered 6 of 7. Then they didn't cover 5 of the last 6, but they did come back and get a nice cover against our good friend Mike White at Georgia. So I'm going to back South Carolina here. Mississippi State 9-11-1 against the spread. They've covered back-to-back games, but they lost that game. They won that game against TCU, but they gave back a big lead against TCU even without Mike Miles that last game out. And here's the deal. I don't like teams on the road in conference matchups that can't make free throws and can't make threes. Mississippi State, 24% from three-point range and only 54.6% from the free throw line. That's last. Tulu Smith could wreck them inside because South Carolina is not great on defense inside. But our first pick here going with South Carolina plus 9.5 versus Mississippi State. Next up, this line has moved sort of against us here to a certain extent. I got Clemson minus 3.5 last night. It's now up to Clemson minus 4.5 at Boston College. And listen, Clemson is leading the ACC. I don't know why we would not back them here. They're 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. Boston College at home has been up and down. Not a great crowd, of course. Sometimes they can be competitive. They had huge comebacks there against Louisville, but they were down early to Louisville, which is the worst team in the ACC this year. Clemson's a physical team. Defense travels, and number 1 in the ACC in adjusted defense and 2-point percentage allowed. Tigers also great from the free throw line, 83%, which is exactly the profile of a type of team, the opposite of Mississippi State that we want to take on the road. BC's defensive metrics are poor, so this isn't a situation, even with Earl Grant, who you expect his defense to be better, where they're going to lock down Clemson at home. They're worse than the ACC three-point defense, which I think is good for Hunter Tyson, some of the other shooters from Clemson. The issue is at Boston College is they don't have one-on-one players that can attack and turn the corner. You saw last night with Texas Tech, Davion Harmon just kept attacking Iowa State over and over again, who got concerned with foul trouble. BC doesn't have that. They have to take advantage of turnovers. They have to take advantage of backdoors. They have to take advantage of cuts, and that's not going to happen against Clemson. That can happen against Louisville. It's not going to happen against Clemson. And another one I want to look at here, another prop, and I put this out on Prize Picks last night here at FTN. Hunter Tyson, the big man for Clemson, over 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think he's going to be able to step out. He's posting 16, 9.8, and 1.5 assists per game for the Tigers. So he's right around this number, a little bit over. He's beaten this in 4 of the last 5 road games, only missing it by 1.5 points, rebounds, assists against a tough interior defense of Pittsburgh. BC does not have that. They allow opponents to score 52.6% from inside the arc. That's third worst in the conference. Tyson should be great inside. He should be able to hit some threes. This does project to be a close game. It's only 4.5 point line, so I'm not worried about Clemson blowing them out, but give me like a 6, 7, 8 point win by Clemson. I think Hunter Tyson's going to be involved. So 2 picks here. We'll go with a prop as well. I like Hunter Tyson over 27.5 points, rebounds, assists to keep Clemson there atop the ACC. And we're going to go with Clemson minus 4.5. This gets up to 5, 5.5. I'd be a little careful, so I grab it right away, but I'm still going with it now. Listen, people are dying to jump on the momentum for Duke. They're dying for it because they say, wait, it's Duke. Here they come. They finally got it right. They had a 40-point win at Georgia Tech. Really? So we're gonna get momentum with Duke because they beat Georgia Tech by 40 points. That's what we're talking about here. Wake Forest drilled Duke from start to finish in that last game. Duke scored a lot of points late to make it look better than it was. They scored 81 points there in that first meeting. They only shot a 7-19 from three-point range. So it's not like Wake was scalding hot, which means they were scoring on the interior. They were driving. They were rebounding, getting turnovers. Wake is very good. Demon Deacons have played well at Cameron. Last year, they only lost by 2 points. That was with Krzyzewski. That was with last year's team. That was not the up and down inconsistency that we've seen here from Duke. Duke is great on the offensive boards. I think that's a key. I think it's too many points. It's sort of going the other way here, so I would take it right away. But one of the props that I do like, a player I do like here is Kyle Filipowski. His points props at 17.5. He usually gets 8 or 9 rebounds here. So I would take a look at Filipowski where you can get his points, rebounds, assists. I think right now it's looking at around 28.5. He had a bad game against Wake the first time. He was in foul trouble. He was 0 of 6 from three-point range, but he's been very good lately. If you think Duke's going to blow them out, I think Filipowski's going to be critical to that and get a double-double, 16 and 10, something like that. So only needs 3 assists or maybe an extra rebound. And if you think it's a close game back and forth, Filipowski's got to stay on the floor and be an integral part of that. So I like Filipowski over 28.5 points, rebounds, assists. I do like Wake to keep it in this number. I think both teams are going to be able to score here, so I would take a look at both of those. I just still think it's too many points. People love to bet Duke, and they're going to inflate the lines. I don't think Duke's problems have been solved here because they had a 40-point win at Georgia Tech. I just don't. There's a bet on a bounce back here with Arkansas. Arkansas minus 3.5 against Texas A&M. I was very impressed with Arkansas and how they played against Baylor. They are still shorthanded. They are still struggling, but they played very well in that game and really almost beat Baylor in that game this past weekend. Arkansas in that matchup just fought. They got down. They were down by 8 points in the second half, but they came back. Ricky Council's been absolutely fantastic. It's another player you may want to look at with a prop. I think it's around 15.5 points. He's been great. Anthony Black, the freshman, Devontae Davis, Mekhi Mitchell. They're getting some bench production from Jalen Graham and McCall Mitchell, but mainly up front. So I'm banking on them at home. Texas A&M's offense can be a little shoddy here. They're well coached, certainly by Buzz Williams, but they haven't been great on offense, shooting under 30% from three-point range. I like Arkansas here. They want to make the tournament. They're hoping that they get Nick Smith back. They're hoping the freshman returns. They want to make the tournament. You need this win. They have to keep the momentum going. If you look at Arkansas in conference, you have Texas A&M, who is 7-1 in conference, has just been fantastic. Only loss was to Kentucky, and they are an underdog here going to Arkansas tonight. Arkansas only 3-5 in conference, so we will roll with them. Let's get to some of the comments here. Questions? Let's go, Nerdy Woodworker. We appreciate that. Yeah, Cole, the ISU was painful. We talked about it happens. If I were to tell you that game was you were going to be up 23 points, you would have taken it. What's even more painful is the line closed at 2.5. So there was even a chance to get the late cover. I got it right away at Iowa State -1, but it went to 2.5. So there still was a chance. And Adam is mentally counting this close as a W. Yes, a lot of pain here in the chat, which I totally get. Let's get to the games and move on. I'm staying away from this game. I don't want to bet this game. There's 2 schools of thought here. Number one, Miami. had 3 straight road games. They're coming home. Miami is absolutely contender for the ACC title, has to get back on track. Second school of thought, Virginia Tech, finally healthy, Hunter Couture, and absolutely destroyed Syracuse. Syracuse, who played very tough last night, absolutely destroyed them. And Virginia Tech now, they're 3-7 in conference, but they had that terrible run where they lost 7 straight games. They were 1-7 in the ACC. Now they beat Duke at home. Then they beat Syracuse. Now they're going on the road and getting 4 points here. Very, very frisky. It's a game I want no part of. Could I see Virginia Tech winning? Absolutely. Could I see Miami coming home and Isaiah Wong having a big game? Definitely. I'm going to look at some props in this game. I liked Isaiah Wong to have a big bounce back spot. He's usually covered his points prop, which I think is around 15.5 at home. So that's the way I'm going to bet this game. I am not betting a side. I can see either way going here, and a big Miami win or Virginia Tech continuing their momentum now that they're healthy. I want no part of this game. I'm staying away from it. The next one I am not. We have struggled with Fordham. We certainly have. Those that have followed the show here know Fordham has been very tough for us. Fordham was non-competitive against that Dayton game that I keep talking about that I went to. But what has Fordham done after getting destroyed by Dayton and giving up a 30-burger to Deron Holmes inside? They won at LaSalle outright and covered. They won at Duquesne outright and covered. They won at St. Bonaventure outright and covered. And they beat George Washington at home by 15. I think the run ends here. They've had a nice run. They're 5-3. Fordham was great to start the season, 12-1. Then they lost 3 of 4. Then they bounced back. But this St. Louis team I've liked. I think they're going to win the A-10. They are 7-1 in conference. Only thing I'm concerned about is the game on the horizon is the 7-2 VCU Rams. That is the next game on Friday. They're playing them at home. So you want to say a sleepy spot. But my biggest comment here is I just think they're going to dominate inside. When you have a post player inside, I think that's where you can really beat up Fordham, and that's what's going to happen here. Last year, when you had Francis Okoro, he had 11 and 10 in just 23 minutes. So last year, St. Louis played Fordham. They won by 18 points, and Okoro went 11 and 10 in just 23 minutes. The defense has been better. Yuri Collins is back to start point guard for St. Louis. They have played well. Collins was 12, 4, and 10 in the last game. Good to see him back to normal. The only spot that the Billikens have messed up here in the A-10 is the road loss to UMass. Fordham, home disaster to Dayton. I think it's similar here. I think St. Louis presents matchup trouble because they play solid defense. Okoro's going to be strong inside, and they have the guards to limit scalding hot Will Richardson from three-point range, a freshman who's been fantastic, and Quisenberry. So I'm going to lay the number here. It's that odd number that we talk about, 4.5, 4 on the road. It was 3.5. It's up there now. We are going with that. Be careful with this one, folks, and I'll explain why. You have Kent State favored by 18.5 points against Central Michigan. Now, Central Michigan is terrible this year, so this is one of these games that if you look at the record, you're going to say, wait a minute. Kent State is 7-1. It's leading the Mid-American Conference. They've been fantastic. They almost won at Houston earlier this year. They played tough at Gonzaga. I understand that. And on the flip side, you have Central Michigan, who's just 8-13, who's just 3-5 in conference. But the reason I want you to be careful is if you look at these games, they are always close between these two teams. You look at the last 5 games that they've had between these teams, they've been very, very close. Covering battles back and forth last year, close battles, both games. I would be very careful. If you're going to make a pick in this game, I would actually take Central Michigan plus the 18.5, because do you know who Kent State has on the horizon? You have Kent State looking at their next game, which is Akron away. So that is going to be a battle on the road at Akron for the lead in the Mid-American Conference. And they are playing a team in Central Michigan that has played them tough each of the last 5 times. Look at the scores from these games the last 5 times. Either Central Michigan has won outright or they've been very, very close. Not taking the 18.5 here. Again, not one of my top plays, not going to be a graphic play, but if you're going to pick one, I would go with Central Michigan. I would not lay the points with Kent State in that matchup. We are laying the points at Davidson. We've been fading Davidson all year. They are a shell of the team that they normally are. They have proved competitive at times, but you have guards in VCU that can pressure. There's been a couple spots here where the public and the betting has gone against VCU, and we've been on the other side, and we've been able to come out victorious, and I think this is going to be another spot. I remember when VCU was playing Richmond earlier this year. The game was at Richmond on Friday, January 20th, and everyone thought that Richmond was going to cover. Richmond was getting the money. Richmond was getting the bets. VCU runs away and hides, wins 74-62. Now you have VCU at home coming off a loss to St. Bonaventure. So I don't want to hear about a sleepy spot because they're going to St. Louis coming up on Friday, because VCU needs to win this game. St. Bonaventure has the guards. They were attacking. They're well coached. I don't see any of that with Davidson. Davidson is just 3-6 in conference. They're 10-11 overall. They're terrible from three-point range, and it's Matt McKillop's first year. So give me VCU here, minus the small number, coming off the loss. I don't want to hear about sleepy spot. I don't see it. I don't think Quinnipiac should be laying 11.5 points. Marist is a team that can cause them problems. Again, if you look back at the matchups between these teams, you've had Marist, who has actually played well. This is a rivalry game. You're going to have Quinnipiac, Connecticut, Poughkeepsie, New York with Marist. The MAC here, Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. I don't like laying that many points with Quinnipiac, and the reason is if you look at their recent history with Quinnipiac, they played St. Peter's, who's not that good at home, only won by 7. Mount St. Mary's away, who's not very good. They won that game by 7. Canisius at home, they gave up 82 points to Canisius. They did win, but didn't cover. Iona, they were up big. This is going to be similar to my play on Iowa State, Kansas, which is coming up this weekend. They were up huge against Iona in that game. They had a lead in that game, Quinnipiac. They were up 21-9 in that game, and they gave it back. They only scored 8 points, Quinnipiac, in 10 minutes in the second half. You lose a game like that, momentum is bad. It's going the wrong way. I think it has a lingering effect. Now they're home. It's a get-right spot against Marist. No, I think Marist has been playing better lately. I think 11.5 is too much. Another game that I've been paying attention to is Buffalo. I didn't like Buffalo to start the year, but they've been very competitive lately and have played well. Shout out to Jim Whitesell, the head coach, who's really improved this team from the start of the year. They started 1-4, lost to James Madison, Connecticut, Drake, and Howard. Things were not going well, but they have played very well lately. They went home against Toledo, who's good, and they kept that game very close. Prior to that, they dropped 100 on Bowling Green and blew them out. Then Ball State away, they win by 26 points. And then the aforementioned Kent State, they went away and kept that game close. They are now getting 2 points against Akron. This is a situation, again, it's narrative-based. It's a Bayesian process. Akron now has to go and host Kent State. I think this is a spot on the road against Buffalo. They have 6 straight wins in conference, but Buffalo has played them tough. These games up in Buffalo have specifically been tough. It's only 2 points. You're going to look at the records. You're going to take Akron. No way. I like Buffalo getting 2 here at home against Akron. Akron with the big matchup coming up on the horizon. Miami of Ohio getting 10.5 against Toledo. This is your classic rivalry matchup, which I love, and I'm going to take the points here. Toledo, of course, explosive offense, can shoot it from 3, especially from inside the arc. Now it's Miami of Ohio. They're on the road. Miami of Ohio is a team that is not great on defense, but can stop the three-pointer. Number 1 in the MAC at defending the three-pointer, under 30 points, over 30% there. When they've played Toledo in the past, they have been able to be competitive and actually kept that game close. Last year, they played Toledo, only lost by 3. I think it's too many points. Toledo has been a little sketchy on defense. Sometimes they can get a little helter-skelter with the ball. Yes, at home, there's times when they go away and hide, but on the road, that is not necessarily true. Double digits with Miami. I expect this line, you can watch it. Unless there's some injury or someone's out with COVID, I expect this line to get down to 9, 9.5. Let's get to the comments here. Adam, I know you'll get there, but given your comment on streaky shooters, is the value on West Virginia gone at +2? We'll get to that. That's actually one of my graphic picks today, Adam. We will get to that game in a little bit. I don't like how Sincere's carries inconsistency. I get that with the Kent game. I totally understand that leg. Do you see value on Air Force Boise at home? We will get to that game as well. Potential look-ahead spot with Boise, San Diego. Joe Scott will have them playing hard. And I'll tell you something here, Colby, about Joe Scott. He did a great job at New Mexico with a team that was shorthanded and had foul trouble as well. We'll get to all those games, guys. Really good questions. Let's keep rolling through here. This is another one, guys, stay away from. Illinois has been scalding hot. Nebraska on the road, sort of a flat spot. Illinois has been great, but you know that you can have very streaky things with Illinois. They seem to be better now with Sky Moore not there. The chemistry is back. Dane Danger inside has been good. 13.5, I guess Illinois, but I just think there's better spots. I'm staying away from that. One of my picks here, Ohio going on the road with Eastern Michigan. At this point, are we going to doubt Imani Bates? Are we really going to doubt him at this point? Eastern Michigan here at home, hosting Ohio in this spot. Eastern Michigan, Bates has just been absolutely fantastic. And if you look at their last few games, he almost single-handedly beat Toledo away, was on fire, and then they beat Miami of Ohio on the road. Now they come home. You know Bates is looking to improve his draft stock. I do not trust Ohio on the road here. This is a team that can give up three-pointers in bunches. This is a team that is not great on the boards. They don't get to the free throw line a ton. Just a very bad spot here. I think it's too many points. This was my free pick of the day. Eastern Michigan getting 8 against Ohio. I think Bates is that good. They could win this game. It's an 8-point line. I think it's too much. I don't trust Ohio to dominate. I know they can be tough inside, but their three-point defense is brutal. Bates has been scalding hot on the road. Now he's home. Unless there's something going on, I will take the 8 points there. I just don't trust Ball State. Bowling Green has been competitive. This is another rivalry game here. We got Mid-America Conference action. Bowling Green plus 1.5 at home against Ball State. Ball State can be very up and down and very streaky. You never know what type of team you're going to get with Ball State. But Bowling Green at home here. They went on the road to Buffalo. They were non-competitive. They went on the home against Western Michigan. But I think here in this spot at home against Ball State, it's really just a doubt on Ball State being able to win on the road. Last few road games at Ohio, they lost. At Kent State, they lost. Home to Buffalo. They did beat Northern Iowa away, but this is the second game. And these games, again, rivalry. Whenever I bet the Mid-American Conference, if I'm going to take a road team, because these games can be very frenetic. The same way with college football. Big comebacks, big spreads, home dogs, I always lean to there. I think that's worth a look as well. This number's ballooned to 8.5. How I'm betting this game is the following. I understand the narrative now that Iowa State lost. Kansas can move themselves back into first place and leapfrog. We have Kansas here going to Iowa State coming up, so they have a great opportunity. I know this is a revenge spot. I know that Kansas just beat Kentucky, but I don't think Kansas is that deep. I think Kansas State in a rivalry game, this is now up to 8.5. I think that's nuts. I like Kansas State plus the points. I do not see a Kansas blowout. And another way I think you can bet this game is the props. One of the things I like is big players in big games. Too often in every sport, we worried about the defense taking away the other team's top option. Folks, that only happens in a very rare amount of circumstances, like a Bill Belichick in the NFL. Last time these two teams played, Keontae Johnson went crazy. Jalen Wilson went nuts. Both were fantastic. So I would look to both of their props. I think Wilson is at 19.5. I think Keontae Johnson is at 16.5, 15.5, something like that. That's how I'm going to bet this game. You can check our bet tracker at FTN. I will have them in later tonight. I like the 8.5 points with Kansas State, unless I get some new news that someone's out. I know it's a revenge spot for Kansas. I know it's very hard to win in the fog, but Kansas State has played them very, very tough. I know Kansas will be ready for this game, but there's a lot of talent there on Kansas State. I think that's a lot of points. Remember, Oklahoma got 10 points. They came in and played well. You had Kansas, who's always given big spreads at home because it's tough to win there, but Kansas State has no problem, and they've been playing very, very well. They were number 1 on my big board very recently, just moved them down to number 2. Bounce back spot for Alabama here. Alabama frustrated, up and down, just got absolutely destroyed in their last game. I think Alabama is absolutely a 1 seed. They got destroyed by Oklahoma away. Before that, it's Mississippi State. They weren't shooting well. I think it's a get-right spot. They just went to Vanderbilt and won comfortably by 12. I know Vandy is playing better, but this is a complete bet on the fact that Alabama will make their threes, that Vanderbilt is not very good, and that Alabama's defense, it's not just the offense with Alabama. They're playing the best defense they've played in a long time under Nate Oates. They defend the 3 well. They rebound. They run. I think it's a get-right spot. I think you get an angry Alabama team. I know it's a high number. I'm fine with that there. Forget Ole Miss. Okay, Kevin, I'm sure Kevin's watching right now, are a fan of Ole Miss. Forget Ole Miss. I am not taking them anymore. Kentucky has been hot. Shebway. The thing about this Kentucky team that I like, besides Cal getting it right, is that Kentucky is actually making threes. Normally, with the great Calipari teams, they struggle to make threes until the end of the year. Now they're shooting it very well from three-point range to start the year. They've been playing better. That was a tough Kansas game. Of course, we know how good Kansas is that they lost, but don't look at that in isolation. Look what they did before that. They beat Tennessee away. They beat Georgia comfortably by 14. They beat Texas A&M by 9. They beat Vanderbilt by 16 away in a snooze fest, and then they lose to Kansas. I think they're ready to go. They're shooting 36.2% overall in the season. They're number 1 in the SEC in offensive and defensive rebounding. Mississippi is a train wreck. If we hear that Matthew Morrell or Deshaun Ruffin are not playing, even better. The line will balloon up. I think it's a 10-point win. Cannot back Kermit Davis and my Ole Miss team. I just can't do it. Indiana plus 2.5 against Maryland. I don't trust Maryland. I know they've been playing better, but Indiana did get Race Thompson back, which was a big deal. Indiana's defense has showed up. They have now won 5 straight games. They're rolling here in the Big Ten under Mike Woodson. They beat Wisconsin home, Illinois, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State by 16. Now they're playing Maryland. I know it's on the road. I'm fine with it. They're shooting well from three-point range. And you know I don't trust Kevin Willard. He's gotten back here against Wisconsin at home and Nebraska. Congratulations. I think this is a competitive game. I think it's a close game. I like Indiana. I will take the 2.5 points. Game that was mentioned before, West Virginia, I got it at 3. It's down to 2.5. I can't take TCU without Mike Miles. I can't. He is so critical to what TCU does. He's a late game scorer for them. This is Bob Huggins. They've been hot lately. TCU is going to be home, and they're going to need this game because they lost the overtime game to Mississippi State. But West Virginia is a much better balanced team, especially on offense, to Mississippi State. West Virginia has been shooting it well from 3, and you had the scalding hot play, which I think continues, of Eric Stevenson. He was 7 of 10 from three-point range. Emmett Matthews, Trey Mitchell, Keedrian Johnson, Joe Toussaint, who I love as well. This was a West Virginia team that beat TCU by 11 at home with Mike Miles. Now there's no Mike Miles, and now they're going to come on the road. It's only 2.5 points. I get it's a rally spot for TCU if you want to avoid it, but I am going with West Virginia. That's my play of the day here at FTN. I started handicapping this game and I took Northwestern. You know, I think Northwestern is very underrated in the market, but then I look closer and the metrics just favor Iowa. I'm going to take Iowa to beat them by more than 6.5 points. Iowa, if you look at their history, has always done well against Northwestern. They go fast, they get up, Northwestern gets down big. Northwestern needs to control the pace. If Iowa gets up early in this game, Northwestern simply cannot come back. They have to control the pace. They have to do that with Boo Buie and Chase Odige. They've played well. They're 6-3. They're 15-5. But their last 3 games, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, those are tough battles, but not the level here of going on the road to Iowa. Iowa has been playing well, especially at home. Beat Michigan at home, scored 93. Beat Maryland at home by 14. Just beat a really good defensive Rutgers team and scored 93 points on Rutgers. You're going to score 93 points on Rutgers. You can certainly score on Northwestern here. Remember, Rutgers went to Purdue earlier this year, and they actually won. So this is a bet on history. This is the fact that Northwestern always struggles at Iowa. Go look at the box scores, laying the number here. I started wanting Northwestern. That was my initial instinct. When I go through the games, I do initial instinct. Then I looked at the matchup. I said, no way, we're laying the points. I am fine taking the points with Air Force. I get the whole thing about the look ahead spot. And I also want to point out that Boise State is yet to win a quad 1 game. They have really struggled here. Colorado State at home, Fresno State, Nevada at home. They're not getting big wins. On the road, they lost to New Mexico. They like to play here with a slow pace, so they like to keep the game a little bit slower. They're great from three-point range, but Air Force has been tough. Joe Scott has done a real nice job. They're defending the three-pointer well. They're number 12 in the country, Air Force, at defending the three-pointer. So Boise's going to have to beat them up inside. I like the points here with Air Force. I want to make sure the players are healthy because they were missing a player or two in the last game. So this is dependent on who's going to be there in the roster. I will check it, but my initial reaction is exactly what we had here in the comments. Air Force plus 8.5 with Boise State. Another one of my picks and graphics picks. These are coming up at the end, folks. Remember, the graphics picks doing very well this year. Dayton minus 15.5 against Loyola Chicago. We are fading Loyola Chicago, and I think Dayton is finally starting to roll and finally starting to look like the team that we thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year. Everyone was high on Dayton because they were number 1 in the country in average height, because they were number 12 in the country in minutes continuity. They brought a ton of players back, but they've struggled here because both Malachi Smith, their point guard, and Kobe Elvis have been out with injuries, but they came back, and boy, did they put a hurting on Richmond, winning 86 to to 60. They lost away to George Washington. They lost to Rhode Island, but I'm buying this Dayton team low. I think they're moving in the right direction here. Don't like Loyola Chicago, who's just 1-7, 7-13. They just lost by 14 points away at Duquesne. Do you think I have any problem taking them here at Dayton? I know it's a big number, but I do like Dayton in this spot as well. And last game we'll talk about here, Nevada +3 against San Diego State. San Diego State is an interesting team because we love San Diego State and the defense that they bring. But if you look at the underlying metrics, they are allowing 54.8% on their interior defense here against Mountain West opponents. And their offense on the interior has been god-awful, 49.2%. They are last in the Mountain West. So they've played well lately. They've won 4 games in a row, but now they're going on the road to Nevada. Nevada has been fantastic at home this year. They have not lost a game at home. They're just coming off a 2 overtime win against a good New Mexico team at home. They beat Utah State at home by 15. They beat Colorado State by 11. They're very live at home. I like Nevada getting the 3 points here. I don't think San Diego State has fixed things, and I think Nevada under Steve Alford playing very, very well. Comments here. Do you like any of these? Let's see. Toledo -5.5. Alabama's 8.5. I like the Alabama one. I think Alabama's going to come up right away and start to score. And Manjon has been great as the point guard for Vanderbilt, but I think this is going to be a big, big game. I like the Alabama -8.5 won Toledo. I'm not so sure. Northwestern has been allowing offensive rebounds and only 22% of their missed shots. I understand that. I just think Iowa, I think the problem here, Leg Show, with Northwestern is if they get down, they are not built to come back from huge, huge deficits. So I think Iowa has the ability to get a run early and a run late and just put them away. I agree with it. Leg Show, though, does like the over-under 149.5. Yeah, I'm fine. And I don't mind laying numbers. It's only 6.5, so I don't mind laying that number with an under. I have no problem with that at all. Okay, folks, we will wrap up here. Let me get to the famous graphics pick so you can know where my strongest leans are for the day. As I mentioned, Iowa -6.5 against Northwestern. I really like Northwestern this year. I think they're underrated. They're going to make the tournament, and they're going to be a problem because of Bowie and Audige, but I don't like them in the spot going on the road against Iowa at home. I think Iowa has done well against them most times in the past, and I think that continues. I'm done with Kermit Davis. I don't know what his answer is going to be for Oscar Tshiebwe inside. And I know it's on the road here, but Kentucky has played well on the road and they're hot. I don't see any reason why they slow down, and they're coming off a loss, so they're going to be motivated. Dayton -15.5. I'm fading Loyola Chicago. Malachi Smith, I think, had 10 assists in the last game. He's feeding Deron Holmes inside. You can go to Holmes for an over-under as well tonight. Go over with his points. He's been playing very well. Dayton is methodical. We like Dayton early in the year, and I think they're finally getting it together that they're healthy. Alabama -14.5 versus Vanderbilt. I like Alabama here, -14.5. I think they're going to get up early and run away. I'm excited about that one. And finally, Eastern Michigan. Listen, Imani Bates has been that good, and I think them getting 8 points at home against Ohio, they've been very competitive against top teams on the road. I don't know why we would fade them here. Those are our games, folks. Got you today. We'll be back again tomorrow and back again on Saturday. Make sure to join us here. Like, subscribe, check the bet tracker. Last-minute information, last-minute news. Somebody's ruled out. We have you covered here at FTN. So as always, for FTN, I'm Mike Randle. College basketball, let's get to that window.